What do you think of Elon's plan to colonize Mars? Is it realistic or is it crazy?
Well, first of all, it's super exciting, and I think that's the point, because I think that the most important objective of his announcement is to really galvanize support for this idea of becoming a multiplanetary species. I think that he knows that the idea of actually getting people there within the next 10 years is not really going to happen. I think that's why he's calling the first ship Heart of Gold, which is a tip to Douglas Adams' improbability drive. But he's taking on some very important steps to solve some of the very, very difficult problems around launch.
So we hear so much about Elon Musk, Richard Branson, Jeff Bezos, but beyond them, who else is out there in this industry? Where do you see the most opportunity and innovation?
Well, really, the opportunity for innovation is coming from the new technology that's emerged just in the last 10 years. And what's happened is that there's now this inversion that's gone on in the aerospace industry. Through the last century, innovation in space meant making satellites bigger and bigger. And that meant that they were more expensive, harder to launch, so you had to radiation harden them, militarize them, give them redundant systems. That made them even bigger. And these enormous satellites, which got into the multi-tons and billions of dollars, in about 10, 15 years ago, the whole industry collapsed under the cost and weight of those. And it was actually a very dark and dry time for the space industry. And so in that vacuum, these philanthropic billionaires came in with a sense of mission. But more importantly, students from Cal Poly and Stanford figured out that they could get their sensors into space by using cell phone parts and create these very small CubeSats. And suddenly space became much cheaper, and 50 years of Moore's law was there to be harvested. And now you see companies like Spire and others taking advantage of this CubeSat platform to really disrupt the entire space industry.
Do you think it's possible that dark time could descend again once people realize this is a really hard problem and that maybe it's just too expensive and too hard to get there?
Right.
Just like it did once before?
Well, so we're talking about two different things. One is getting to Mars, and the other one is the development of the space ecosystem.
Right.
Getting to Mars is very, very difficult, and Elon didn't even talk about many of the challenges around the human factors. We don't know.
Like what?
Well, there's radiation danger, which he dismissed way too quickly. There's impacts of space on how we live, on our vision, on our psyche, on our organs. These are human factors that NASA's been working on for a long time and that they're not figured out yet. And then he's also trying to take a shortcut. If Elon were to wait for the ecosystem to develop, there would be fueling depots in space. We're going to figure out how to mine the moon and mine asteroids, and he won't have to send his boosters back and forth bringing fuel into space. It'll actually be cheaper and safer if he leverages the ecosystem that the rest of the startup community is really building in space now.
So how do you as an investor weigh the risk versus reward here?
Yeah.
Because obviously, getting to Mars is one thing and investing in space in general is another thing, but it's still a hard and risky thing. How do you decide that it's worth putting your money here when you don't know if it's going to be profitable?
Right. Well, we take risks on very iffy startups that are doing much less important things like helping teenagers share videos with each other. This is worth taking a risk on. There are really, there are the space ventures like Elon's that are focused on the long-term social missions of preserving our planet from asteroids, of preserving the species by becoming multiplanetary, of advancing science. Companies can be profitable only if they're able to sell their technologies to the government, to NASA, in order to advance those missions. But there are a lot of other areas where you can see economic value much more quickly. And that primarily today is in communications and in planetary awareness. Sensors that are keeping track of what's going on Earth, in the atmosphere, in the ozone, marine traffic, all kinds of sensing and imaging. And then there are also new applications being developed, like pharmaceutical research in zero gravity, asteroid mining, lots of other interesting areas that I see every day.